Yo people, welcome back to the YouTube channel. You already know what time it is. It's time for another video, another news update, opinionated video that I have to give to you again because Todd Boehly must be stopped. This man will not rest. He will not end his pursuit for every under 23 talent on this planet that has a sprinkle, a smidgel of talent, a little bit of technique. He will not end this pursuit. He wants to buy everyone, and it's so difficult to keep up with. Every single day a new name pops up. It just keeps on changing and elevating. This guy, he is literally typed in to the FIFA transfer window search engine, under 23, wonder kid, superstar. Is the attribute over 77? Tick. Is the potential over 85? Tick. And whoever falls onto that is basically a target for Chelsea at this point. This guy must be stopped. Today, we talk about Madueke from PSV. A 30 million euro bid has been put in, £26.5 million. And of course, you know that potentially. If you don't, welcome to the story. Again, so difficult to keep up with. To talk about this player, I've done a little bit of, gathering of my thoughts, pieced it together. And again, I am not exactly excited again because where do we start? The injury record is so alarming, guys. The injury record is so alarming. Yes, the talent is there. Yes, the base level of talent is there for the 20-year-old. He's exciting. He's a really good dribbler. He's in the top 99 percentile for dribbling, for touches in the penalty area, for assists. This guy looks like he can create. He looks like he potentially doesn't need a fullback Aspilicueta to overlap, to underlap, to give him that extra support. It would be helpful, but if we're going to bring him in and not bring in that right back, then potentially he won't get that support. But the injury record is so alarming. Just the one goal this season as well, so potentially not the most prolific, but he has missed so many games over the last couple of years. 43 matches, guys, in the last season and including this season. So this season and the last season, in total, 43 games missed. This season, he's played 8 games. That's a lot of injuries, most of them being muscular, some ankle. How many more injury-prone players do we need to add to this squad? How many more players that are susceptible to injuries that we have to look after, to cater to, do we need to add into this squad? We've already got enough. Literally, this is why we're looking at wingers. It's because Pulisic is out. It's because Sterling is out. Our medical team is under huge scrutiny and under the microscope massively after Todd Boehly and his regime came in and sacked all of the existing medical team, which weren't doing the greatest job. Previously, there were injuries racking up left, right, and centre. But this season, this is unheard of, monumental, emphatic, bombastic. The injury list is ridiculous. We have so many injuries, guys, and now we're looking at a young, yes, promising, yes, potential high for this winger, but he has an injury record, and for me, that is a no-go zone. That is a red flag if I've ever seen one. That is danger, because we've already got enough of those issues. We've seen it with Hudson-Odoi, we've seen it with Pulisic, and now we're looking to bring this other young player in who's left-footed, who plays on the right flank, who still needs to improve, who still needs to develop, who still needs to find more of his output. The season before was a lot better with 9 goals and 6 assists in 35, but still, we need to think about ourselves here. And is this a priority? For me, no. I would prefer a central midfielder. Could we take that 30 million euros and put it towards Enzo Fernandez, maybe? Is that going to help elevate the team to a higher level this season and maybe beyond? I believe so. Could we take that money and put it towards a right back so we don't get skinned by 34-year-old Willian, maybe? That would be nice. When you've got Kone, when you've got Ziyech, who's not going to be sold in January unless a bid comes in, still nothing. When you've got Amari Hutchinson, yes, he's not ready, but for me, there are more pressing needs in this team. And obviously Pulisic and Sterling will come back, but that midfield, regardless, even when everybody is fit, still has imbalance and has issues. That right back situation is alarming. We need to sort this out, people. And for me, this player, yes, he may have talent. He's been playing in that 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3 / his recent games against Rotterdam have, he's at least back in the team now for PSV after the injuries, the games that he's missed this season. But for me personally, I can't get excited, guys. How many more attackers are we going to keep adding to this squad? We're bringing João Felix suspended. We want to go and get Thuram from Mönchengladbach. We're going to talk about another player from that team in just a second. And now we want to bring in this player. So we're going to get him, this player, and we're going to get Thuram, and we've brought in Felix. That'll be 4 forwards, including Fofana, in one transfer window. Not a single midfielder, not a single right back. For me, I think it's a little bit foolishness. Yes, I know we want to bring in young talents and whatnot, but the priorities are not in check. So for me, I can't be too excited, especially when I see that injury record. I don't see that getting better immediately in the Premier League. If anything, this league is more physical. I'm sure it definitely is than the Dutch league. So it surely makes that situation more of a red flag than it already is. So yes, a talent, but I'm not going to get too excited. I'm not going to lie to you, because again, first of all, you're not addressing the need in the team, the priority in the team for me. Second of all, he's injury prone. And third, he's not even an instant impact for me, again, because you're bringing in a player that's that young, that output wise could still be much better. Again, is going to be coming into this team and probably still needing to develop in terms of his finishing, etc. So you're not solving any real problem for me in terms of instant impact. You're again looking 3, 4, 5 years down the line. Now let's get to the midfielders. So that bid has gone in. Let's see how that materializes, and let's see what happens with Thuram as well. Speaking of Mönchengladbach, I'm going to talk about Kone versus Caicedo versus Lavia, because these are the three midfielders that seem to be on the pecking. They seem to be on the pecking order. In what order, I have no idea, but they're after Enzo Fernandez, who of course we are still yet to really pursue in a serious manner after and since what happened. Apparently, reportedly, we're still interested. We still could put in a bid. Now, the first thing I want to say off the top is that Enzo Fernandez for me is a better midfielder than all of these guys that I'm about to name. Better than Lavia at Southampton, better than Caicedo at Brighton, and better than Kone at Mönchengladbach. They're all around the same age range. Lavia is 19, all the way up to 21 with Caicedo and Kone, and obviously Enzo Fernandez is very young as well, young player of the tournament from the World Cup. Enzo Fernandez for me is the top target for me. He is the player that I would be excited about. He's the player that can pass. He's the player that, if you look at his metrics, if you look at his underlying or even right in your face staring you in the sunset metrics, this brother can pass the ball. He's a bit of a deep line playmaker, and that's what this team needs: chance creation. Now, if you look at Caicedo and you look at Kone and you look at Lavia, they don't have that elite pass that Enzo Fernandez has. They don't have that creativity that Enzo Fernandez has. They've got some nice attributes that this midfield lacks in terms of mobility, potentially defensive solidarity in terms of winning the ball back and covering spaces. And, you know, in terms of output going forward, none of them have really chipped in with goals or assists like an Enzo could potentially with those long shots and that passing. But maybe they'll still develop. They're still all very young. To start with, Lavia, I watched him against Manchester City in midweek. Great performance. That was a brilliant performance from everybody at Southampton. He probably walks away with man of the match, or at least a contender in that respect. Manchester City were awful, but it was mainly due to how energetic and how enthusiastic Southampton were, as well as technically sound as well. Now, of course, this team are bottom of the table, but Lavia at 19 years old is a player that we looked at in the summer, kind of stupidly considering he only just signed from Manchester City, along with Joe Shields moving from Manchester City to Southampton. But we were reportedly interested. Whether we put in a big bid or not, who knows? But we were interested in Lavia from the summer. He's 19 years old. He has been deployed at times by Southampton as a sitter, but also in a midfield too. He's missed 9 games this season. He also had an injury this season. So Ward-Prowse, Armstrong, all these other guys have come in as well to the team. So he's not been a consistent starter. He's the person with the least amount of minutes out of this crop this season to judge and say that you have evidence to support that you should be shelling out a potentially 50-40 million. Now, for me, Lavia is probably an absolute no-go in this window, mainly because Southampton are in a relegation battle. They could be relegated, so it for me is nonsensical to pay above the asking price, potentially above the actual normal price for Lavia, considering 1, he just signed 6 months ago, and 2, his team could be relegated, and that could give you a cut down price in the summer. So 6 months, you could pay half of what you're going to pay now to take away a key player out of Southampton who they need to try and stay up. They're only 3 points off the drop, and as they showed against Manchester City, they could actually get out of the relegation battle if they applied themselves consistently. So for me, Lavia in January is not going to happen. It's a no-go. Financially, it doesn't make sense. And of course, for me as well, the player is only 19 years old. So again, that instant impact that you're looking for to hold it down in midfield, he has the potential, 100% he has the potential, but there are still learning curves to come at 19 years old in your first Premier League season, not even full season. Now, Kone is another interesting one. Very high percentiles for dribbles completed, 99 percentile. Again, plays in a double pivot next to Weigl. And again, this is a former Benfica and former Dortmund midfielder. Under Tuchel, we would have seen him as well at Dortmund, who does most of the sitting Weigl, and it's Kone who plays next to him in this team for Mönchengladbach, and he's able to roam and move forward and dribble, kind of like a Mateo Kovacic in a way. He's carrying the ball a lot. His progressive passes are not as high statistically. Of course, I'm not watching them week in, week out to judge, but statistically for percentiles, etc., progressive passing is something he will work on. Same with Caicedo when we talk about him at Brighton. brilliant progressive passing against us in the 4-1 win for Brighton at the Amex, but on a consistent level, the statistics, it doesn't show that he's anywhere near these two, anywhere near on the level of Enzo Fernandez from a passing perspective. You can see that with the eye test, and you can see that on the statistics. So these two players, Kone and Caicedo, they're not going to give you the creativity from a passing perspective that you're going to get from an Enzo Fernandez, and that for me makes them below, 100% way below them, way below him in the pecking order for me for where we should be trying to put it together in terms of the money spent. Yes, they are cheaper. I think Caicedo is probably overpriced. Now he has the Premier League experience by his side as well this season, having played for Brighton, but an air of caution. As much as I really do like the player, I do respect what he's doing in the second phase a lot. Next to a McAllister, next to a Pascal Gross in that Brighton team, he has been kind of covering those wide spaces. He has been defensively very solid in a very good Brighton team this season under Thabz, and they are overachieving massively, if you see. But as much as I like the player, I don't think he's worth 70, 80 potentially million, whatever they're going to charge. I don't think he's worth that, and I wouldn't overpay for him. I would overpay for Enzo Fernandez because I do believe that he's a very rare type. He's a very rare midfielder in terms of the attributes that he's giving you and what he's bringing to your team in terms of his specific skill set. So I would overpay. I know we're overpaying potentially, but I would overpay. But I wouldn't overpay for Caicedo because I do think there's other alternatives out there, and Kone maybe is that player. Similar type player, potential box to box, dribbles, carries the ball, again could improve the passing, but is young and potentially cheaper from Mönchengladbach, but again isn't going to give you that passing range of Enzo Fernandez. But both still good options. I think Kone is what I'd lean closer to, considering that fact that he's going to be a lot cheaper, probably a lot cheaper, maybe half the price of a Caicedo, but again still not Enzo Fernandez level. And if I could choose, I'm definitely still overpaying for him over going for these guys, purely because I do think his skill set is just that rare and that good, and I think he's shown it on the big stage now at the top level, which these two are yet to do as well. Obviously Caicedo was decent for Ecuador, pretty good for Ecuador in the group stages, but never got to the latter rounds, and not to be expected to do so. So for me, that's the ranking, that's the order. De Zerbi, of course, has also frozen out Trossard at Brighton. They've had a whole big spew. The agent has come out and said that he could be leaving. I know I was a little bit of a Trossard fanatic earlier on in the season when he was in form. You don't have to worry about that. I'm no longer interested in the player. We'll see where he goes. But I've had a moment to cool down. I've drank my water, and I've decided, actually, no, we don't need to bring in 28, 29-year-old, whatever. Let's just go down the super team, the under 23 route, which is what we're doing. We need to bring the average age of the team down. We're going to be doing that clearly with all of these targets. But I am still gutted to this day that 30 million euros potentially is going towards Madueke instead of going towards Enzo Fernandez. And I'm still a little bit annoyed that, yes, these targets are great, but they're not Enzo Fernandez. So if you got that extra money, I'd still put it towards Enzo. And that's just my opinion. I'm going to be maybe super biased to a lot of people, but I don't tend to die on the hill of a player so often anymore since the Lukaku situation. Only Tchouaméni did I really push this heavily for in terms of a midfielder that I really rate and I really want. And Enzo Fernandez is falling into the Tchouaméni category for me. This is a midfielder that I just desperately think that would upgrade and transform Chelsea tenfold. And these other players could in maybe 2-3 years' time. They're all very young, 20 all the way to 19 years old. So 21, 20, 19 years old, around that age range. Enzo Fernandez is in that age range, but for me, he's higher level than these guys. But let's see if anything transpires. We know we need a midfielder. We know we need a right back. And it looks like we're trying to sign every single forward on the planet under the age of 23. So we shall see what happens. Big up your damn selves. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Smash up the like button. Let me know what you think in terms of the midfielders. Who do you want? Do you think value for money wise is better to go with a Kone? Would you take a Caicedo who's more Premier League proven, even though the asking price is maybe in between the Enzo and the Kone bracket? Would you even go for a Lavia, despite the injury this season and the lack of game time in comparison? Or would you break the bank for Enzo Fernandez? And of course, let me know what you think on Madueke as well. Big up your damn selves as always. Make sure you subscribe. In a bit, people. Peace.